do you feel like everybody's mom at some point? Do you
Yeah,
feel like
I
a
do.
the WCAC's mom or the IAC's mom all at once?
Miss Stacey, I'm going to tell you because amongst us DMV sports guys, we call you Claire Huxtable when you're not around. You are our Claire Huxtable. I just
That
want you
means
to know.
so much to me,
Uh,
actually.
Look, from one queen to another queen, right? You are our Claire Huxtable.
Live from the streets of Washington, D.C., on the corner where sports and culture meets hip-hop. Sharing stories of the DMV and spitting fire for the whole damn country. This is First and Told with Chad Ricardo and Darrell Bouknight.
What up, my people, and welcome back to episode 2 of First and Told. I'm Chad Ricardo, and that right there is my main man, Mr. Darrell Bouknight. D, we got a very special show for our guest today. We've got Reese Becker joining us from 757. He's going to talk about some high school sports going on down there. Everybody hates Josh. Ilori is stopping by the show. And later on, a special treat. The CEO of the March of Dimes, you may know her as DMV Sports Mom, Stacey Stewart, is joining First and Told. First, though, we want to begin with an update on the status of DC high school sports. Recently, Mayor Bowser announced that at a press conference that high school sports could return for re-engagement. This is a 3-step process that tentatively begins on March the 15th, D. The student athletes are not returning to competition yet, but they're at least getting back with their coaches. Are you satisfied?
In a way, yes. I'm satisfied because this is an opportunity to only go up from here. I don't think we can get any lower than we have been the past 9 months to a year or so. It gives the student athletes a chance to get back on the field, the court, re-engage with their teammates, re-engage with their coaches, and hopefully get out the house and work out and participate in some sort of organized activity. I'm not excited, but I am hopeful. I'm hopeful that this turns into something even better with more competitive action.
I gotta tell you what, bro. One of my business mentors, he always said to me that in any good deal, both sides leave that deal happy but not satisfied. And that's kind of how it is that I feel about this here, right? Like happiness. There were a couple of goals that I looked for in our quest for student athletes that we look to right, wrongs that we look to right. Number one would be the fact that they're missing out on scholarship opportunities, which allows for them to get out of potentially some uncomfortable situations and off to college. Not being able to have competition does not allow for them to get the exposure opportunities that their peers are getting in Virginia, that their peers are getting in portions of Maryland, that their peers are getting right up the road in other portions of Washington, D.C. So we don't have the equity from that perspective that they're getting those exposure opportunities. What I am happy about is that they at least get to re-engage with their coaches and with their athletic families, which allows for them to speak somewhat to the mental health aspect. It gets them off of the streets. It gets them back with their people. And so hopefully we can begin, as you said, moving forward and getting back to not normal, but getting back to a better space than we were 2 days ago.
Better, yeah. Hopefully it's better. Hopefully it is, the step, a right step in the normal, quote unquote, normal direction. The NBA All-Star Game festivities were held. What do you think? Were you excited when they announced they were going to have an All-Star Game with the format and everything? No fans in Atlanta. What did you think of that? How'd you feel?
I'll tell you how I feel. So number one, and for anybody that's watching and I'm a diehard Laker fan, right? I know I can hear the people at home, they're booing right now. I'm a diehard Laker fan. I actually am so much of a Laker fan that I cannot watch regular season basketball because it pulls at me. So there are too many games for me to go through the emotional stress and strain that is an NBA season if I'm watching the games. So the All-Star festivity, I don't really pay attention to the NBA until we get to the summer. Now, that said, you look at the dunk competition. There's three guys who I'm sure are uber athletic and are going to do their thing. I don't even know who any of them are. So I'm not excited about that. No fans in the stands, although it's the right thing. I'm not excited about that. I don't even know if AD's not playing. I don't know if LeBron's going to play, so they're not representing the Lakers. But here's what I am excited about, D. I know that proceeds of the game are going to help out HBCUs, and I'm really excited that they're playing the game because that is happening.
I agree with you. I'm mixed. I'm 50-50. I think I am excited about where the proceeds are going. I think it's tremendous, especially given what Chris Paul has been doing and his help with HBCUs and getting them more exposure and more airtime, and talking about more and more of their players. What I am a bit skeptical about is the overall feel of the game. I think LeBron James was the first one to come out and say, I'm not feeling it this year. I don't want to play this year. And I think it was Giannis Antetokounmpo who also followed up and said, yeah, I'm not that excited for the All-Star game this year. So I kind of feel the same way they feel. The three-point contest, that's going to have a lot of good names in it. The dunk contest, young guys, but guys we don't really know all that much. But I do think Kevin Durant is not playing. Anthony Davis is not playing. So Damian Lillard is taking a rest from the three-point contest. So we're missing out on a lot of the star power. But I do think for the sake of the proceeds and for the reason and because it does give the NBA more money and more exposure, I think it is a good idea.
Definitely anything that goes to help out HBCUs, we are in favor of. We'll talk to Stacey Stewart about some black empowerment a little bit later on. And for anybody listening at home, we do not intend to fake the funk. Darrell and I are recording this at approximately 5:17 on March the 4th. So that is, you're listening after the All-Star game. We're recording it before that. And speaking of the devil, D, by the time you are hearing this at home, the WCAC will be set to kick off on Saturday of the current week that you're listening to this here. This is their spring tilt, Darrell. They're going to be playing approximately 5 to 6 games. Your Gonzaga Eagles open up against a tough DeMatha Stag squad. They've got Cameron Edge over there with DeMatha and a host of hungry defensive players. For the first time in a long time, Caleb Williams will not be under quarterback for the Gonzaga College Eagles. Should Gonzaga fans be worried?
Worried? No. I don't think they should be worried at all. I do think it will be a weird sight, perhaps, to not see Caleb on the field. You know, you got used to his greatness and his heroics on the field. Obviously, we remember that WCAC title game from a couple years ago, the Hail Mary to Marshall in the end zone to win it. So it will be a different, almost a foreign sight to not see Caleb under center. But I am excited to see who I believe is Mr. Pettibone, Mr. Carson Pettibone under
Carson
center.
Pettibone.
I'm excited. You know, he's obviously he comes from a family of legends, you know, and from his grandfather all the way down to his father, his brothers who went to Gonzaga and excelled there as well. But I don't think fans have any reason to be concerned. If anything, I think they should be excited because they have a new quarterback. They have a coach who's going to have them prepared no matter what. And if you can guarantee that Gonzaga is going to come out and play to the best of their capabilities every single time they step on the gridiron, I always give them a fair shot, and the fans should as well. So no, I'm not worried. I'm not concerned.
Personally, I'm happy that the producers chose this question. It gives us an opportunity to talk about Gonzaga, which I know that you're going to find a way to do 4 to 5, 6 to 7 times every show anyway. And so for all of the Gonzaga College high school Eagles, that name is too long, first of all. My school, Bethel Bruins. 2 words, very simple. But for all the Gonzaga College high school Eagle fans out there, the number 2 game of the last decade in the DMV was that Gonzaga over DeMatha, so we're seeing another rematch of that. It's the number 2 game, Jeff. What's his last name? Owens? Darrell?
Jeff Clay?
Clay. Jeff Owens Clay is his name. It's the number 2 game for you and for everybody else out there. But I'll tell you what, I am not concerned at all, and here's why. You've got a man at the helm. His name is Coach Randy Trivers. He's one of my close friends. I know you don't know him that well, but he's one of my close friends. When you talk about preparation for a team, when you talk about a system, when you talk about Neff, now embrace finish. Again, I know that you didn't know that. That is what we're talking about in Randy Trivers. He reminds me of Mike Tomlin, another great coach at the professional level who prepares his team. When Ben Roethlisberger went down 2 years ago, did the Steelers fold up their tent, D?
No.
No, they didn't
No,
fold
of
up
course
their
they
tent.
didn't.
With second, third, fourth string quarterbacks, they still went out there and they won. And this Gonzaga team, that's not what they're looking at here. You spoke about Carson Pettibone, who has been described as me as a young Tim Tebow out there, so we think that he's going to get it done. They've got another young man by the name of Bryson Moore that is set to do big things out there on the football field as well. So do I believe that you can replace Caleb Williams? No one can replace Caleb Williams. He is Superman in the flesh, but this team as a total, Coach Trivers brings them together and they get it done on the football field. I'm not picking them over DeMatha necessarily, but they get it done out there on the football field.
Well, you know what I also do? I don't think you have the right to use the now embrace finish Neff saying, but if you, I think I have more of that privilege and that right. So you got to talk to the folks at Gonzaga about that.
Coach Trivers, he gave me the right, bro. He gave me the right. He did it. I don't want to say that over the airs because then he'll like just stare at me the next time I see him and it'll kind of paralyze me. I've never I don't know that I've ever been so intimidated by a man that's a foot shorter than me before in life, bro. But Coach, that wasn't funny. Oh, we're not laughing at home? Oh, really? Okay, guys.
Well, next time you step foot on campus, let's see his reaction.
Coach Travis, I want no smoke at all. Honestly, I'm afraid of him. I'm going to be honest.
Give it to him, Coach. And you know what? It's funny you bring up Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger because today it was announced that Ben Roethlisberger is returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers for the 2021 season. Are you shocked? Do you think, they obviously have Mason Rudolph. They just signed Dwayne Haskins a couple of months ago. Do you think Ben can get them to the promised land? Can he win his third Super Bowl, or are they going to start 11-0 again and go 1-5 or 1-4 in their last 5 games? How do you perceive this taking place and going down?
Well, before I answer this question, I do want to circle back to my last statement and say, Coach Trivers, I apologize for referencing my height compared to you. You are one of my most admired and revered coaches in the nation. And again, you oftentimes intimidate me. So I just want to make sure that you know that I was joking there. But now, as we move forward, Coach Tomlin's Pittsburgh Steelers squad out here. Ben Roethlisberger, bro. So I'm a Giants fan. And a few years ago, we went through this same song and dance with Eli Manning, right? It's a quarterback. You know that his best days are beyond him, but you don't have someone in the system that's ready to take over, nor do you have a high enough draft pick to change what it is that you had at the quarterback position. So what do? You run it back with the old guy, bro. And that's exactly what it is that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do right now. If they put a great team around him, can he win? Yes, with a great team around him. That's why they'll cut his pay and they'll look to get a better team around him. But will he be the driving force to getting them to the Super Bowl? Absolutely not. It'll be Mike Tomlin. It'll be that defense, and it'll be everything else. The improved offensive line that they'll need to put around Roethlisberger to kind of use him as a bridge as they get to the next person. What do you think?
You know what? I pretty much agree with you, and I think, speaking of your Giants, they just got rid of Golden Tate today. Yeah. Maybe that's another receiver they could use for veteran experience to help those two young guys on either side. Good. You know what? Here's my thing about Roethlisberger, and people criticize him for his play, his mobility, or lack thereof of mobility. Somebody just said that he looks like the family member at Thanksgiving who just finished eating 2 plates of food, and then they ask him to come out and throw the football with the kids. And I think that's kind of mean, but also kind of true. But, it is going to be about, this is his last season, right? We presume, at least. And if he can go in and just do what he's accustomed to doing. He doesn't have to do anything special. He doesn't have to throw 40 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. But if he can just control the offense the way he knows how to control the offense, the way he's been doing it his whole career, then paired with hopefully a good defense and coaching down the stretch that doesn't put them in poor or terrible positions, maybe they can make some noise. Maybe they can get to a championship game in the AFC. And for Steel City fans like Josh, who everybody hates, maybe they can get to the Super Bowl at some point at this year, at least, if this is Big Ben's last year. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm rooting for Big Ben. I'm rooting for him.
2021, who wins more games? Not the spring season, but the fall season. Who wins more games, the Pittsburgh Steelers or Gonzaga?
Pittsburgh plays more games.
I didn't ask you that. Who wins more games, Pittsburgh or Gonzaga?
Pittsburgh.
See, I'm going Gonzaga. Coach T, I'm going Gonzaga wins more games 2021 than the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's flawed. It's a skewed question, but okay, I got it,
bro. Listen, Coach T. Now you see which one of us is your real friend here, who truly admires you. All of the Gonzaga College High School Fighting Flying Eagles. God is purple. Darrell Bouknight coming up. We've got March of Dimes CEO Stacey Stewart joins us on First and Told.
They took my first love away. Took my hopes and dreams, said that we couldn't play. Now all I do all day is sit around and contemplate the day that they say, okay. They say, all right. They say we can get back to the fight. They say we can get back to the field and off of these streets because I'm fighting for my life. Fighting for acknowledgement. More than an athlete, I'm fighting for a scholarship. Fighting to change my family's life for generations. Fighting. Bro, how hard is this? It took my first love away.
And we're back, First and Told. I'm Chad Ricardo. That's Darrell Bouknight. This is the intersection where sports and culture meet hip-hop. D, we got a very special guest in the building. Tell them who we got today.
Oh, we sure do, Chad. In episode 2, we have a good one here today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce her. Since 2017, Stacey Stewart has served as the 5th president and CEO of March of Dimes. As the head of the organization, Stewart leads the fight in protecting the health and wellness of all mothers and newborn babies. She is responsible for all aspects of March of Dimes strategy, vision, and operations. She also holds a Master's of Business Administration and Finance from the University of Michigan and a Bachelor of Arts in Economics from Georgetown University, and holds honorary degrees from Alabama A&M, Morgan State University, Texas Southern University, and Trinity University. Some of you may know her on Twitter as DMV Sports Mom. It is episode 2, and we are joined by you-know-who, none other than Miss Stacey Stewart.
True Black excellence in the building. Miss Stacey, thank you so very much for joining us here today.
Oh, I'm so pleased to be with you guys. I follow you guys and admire everything that you're doing. So it's an honor to be with you.
Now, look, Darrell, I got to share with you and for the nation, everybody else out there that's listening right now. Total happenstance that myself and Miss Stacey came into contact. We were both doing what we love, our passion, covering student athletes. I met this woman who was taking these wonderful photographs. I had no idea that I was in the presence of a queen when I first met her. So it's been a pleasure, Stacey. I'll let Darrell kick off the formal questions in a moment, but we do want to bring culture and music into this. So for everybody listening, who are your all-time top 5 favorite musical artists? Who's in your iPod if that's what the kids are listening to nowadays?
Oh, wow. So, a lot of people are not going to believe this because I listen to a lot of hip hop.
Yeah.
Much to my husband's dismay. But I also cover a lot of generations, right? So I love Biggie, I love Jay-Z.
There
I
we go.
I love Nas. I love I really love Travis Scott. Um
Yeah,
but I also kind of am old school too. I love like the Isley Brothers, a whole bunch of
yeah.
a whole bunch of people I grew up with, like Shalimar and folks like that. So I cover a lot of different generations of folks. But I actually, if you get in my car on any given day, I'm probably listening to hip hop. I'm from Atlanta, so I gotta shout out all my Atlanta, like Lil Baby and Gucci Mane. I love all of them. So and 2 Chains. So I don't know, I can't stop at five. It's quite a lot. I have quite a lot.
True black excellence. And look, to that point, Miss Stacey, if you look over my shoulder here, that's Jay-Z right there.
There you go.
That's on my wall. We
Yep.
represent the culture. If you look in Dee's room, there's nothing like that. But me and you were on the same page
He's $300 million richer today, I understand. So,
here. Oh,
Oh, I didn't hear that. I'll take some of that.
oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and Stacey, I just want to get started and kind of let you take the floor with this one. I want you to tell us, the listeners, how you got to where you are today. A little bit about your journey. You have a business administration background, you have an economics background, but you're the president and CEO, I should say, of such an important organization. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah. Well, this is actually, and this is probably even more rare to find. This is the third national or global organization that I've been the president and CEO
Hmm.
of. I was the U.S. president of United Way, which is actually the largest nonprofit in the world. And I served as U.S. president of United Way before coming to March Dimes. And then also, I really moved to Washington in 1999 to be president and CEO of the Fannie Mae Foundation, which at the time was the largest foundation, philanthropic entity in Washington, D.C., and also the largest national affordable housing foundation. So, and I worked at Fannie Mae, both on the company side and then the foundation side for about 17 years. But before that, I started my career on Wall Street. Actually, I'm originally from Atlanta. Um, as a lot of people know, I'm a proud both Atlantan and also Washington DMV resident, and growing up in Atlanta was it was an amazing. I had such a rich, growing up. My father was a physician, so I kind of grew up around the conversations around health and health equity. And I'll come back to that with respect to how I ended up at the March of Dimes. But my father was a doctor, my mom was a physician. And I grew up in the 60s, really. I was born in 1964. I'm pretty old. I celebrated a birthday this week, so it's kind of like crazy. But I grew up, so you have to, I don't know if people can appreciate this, but I grew up in a neighborhood. Reverend Ralph Abernathy was our neighbor. My parents were friends with Martin Luther King, Joseph Lowery, C.T. Vivian, Andy Young and I, we've been family friends. Like these were people that like literally were in my life and kind of really shaped me as a person. None more than my own parents, though, who were professionals, but they also, there was a strong sense of you. It's just not good enough to be black and have a great professional career. You gotta give back. So even though I was really interested in economics and finance, I studied economics at Georgetown and went to University of Michigan and got an MBA in finance. I knew that it wasn't going to be good enough for me just to go and work in banking or whatever, make money for myself and not be doing something for my community. And so that's always been a part of who I was. So when I went to Michigan, I went directly to Wall Street, but I worked in an area called public finance, which wasn't the area that a lot of people work on Wall Street or what people know about Wall Street, corporate finance and, all the, big, powerful men on Wall Street. It was really the area of Wall Street that was about raising money for state and local governments. So when the District of Columbia has to build new schools or roads or bridges, they go and issue bonds and raise that money and put it into public use. And those were the kinds of deals that I worked on. I did a lot of work in Michigan and Detroit and Ohio. I worked on bond deals for housing and hospitals and a lot of different things. and then went to Fannie Mae, and then kind of transitioned from sort of a private sector to philanthropy and nonprofit. For me, it wasn't ever about like, do I work for a nonprofit or for profit? It was just more about, can I take my talents and what I love around business and leading large scale organizations and do good for others? So that's, I don't know how I got here, but that's kind of how it all worked, you
Right,
know?
right. And,
Yeah.
and doing good for others is it's certainly, I think that encapsulates almost what you're doing now at March of Dimes. Um, I kind of want to give a visual perspective. I think it was back in 2018 you were giving a bit of a testimony about the work you do, and you gave the vision of a mother giving birth to a newborn baby or a baby girl or baby boy, and you held up a blanket, and you
Mm,
said when that baby is born, the doctor wraps the baby in that blanket. But in the U.S., over 700 times a year, the doctor doesn't have the chance to hand that blanket, the baby in that blanket, back to the mother because, unfortunately, as you said, over 700 times a year, and the number may have changed since then, the mother passes away during childbirth. What
yeah.
what pulled you into getting involved in such an important cause like this, and your advocacy for mothers and newborn babies and their health and wellness? Why is that such an important deal to you, and what do you want your message to be to those mothers who may not know the risks or causes, or
Yeah.
those who are dealing with trauma of losing a parent potentially at childbirth? What did you want your message to be?
Yeah. Well, I'll take you back to when I was a when I was a teenager. I worked in my father's office, and I just did like cleaning out old files and doing what a 14-year-old kid would do. And I would have to remove files for patients that hadn't been to see my dad in a long time, and we needed more space. And one of the things that I discovered in getting to know a lot of his patients, and remember, this was my father uh, practiced for 50 years in Atlanta, in downtown Atlanta. Almost all of his patients were Black. The vast majority of them were Black women, mostly on Medicaid, mostly on Medicare. And I saw up close and personal the health challenges that really many Black women face, especially around obesity, hypertension, diabetes, the things that we all know are far too common in our community. But let me tell you what he wrote mostly in those files around what was the most fundamental diagnosis, and it was anxiety. And what I began to understand around our health is that our health is not really primarily determined by what happens in the doctor's office, or our whether or not we're well is not primarily determined by what the doctor does. It's primarily determined by how we live. So when we live under toxic stress of racism and discrimination, or in communities that are unsafe, or with housing conditions that are less than what they should be, or not as affordable as what they should be, or when we live in situations where there's violence in the household or in the community, or not enough access to clean water or air or decent, nutritious food, whatever the issue is, those are the things that determine our health more than anything. And I understood that from a very early age. And of course, I then proceeded in my career. But coming back to the March of Dimes, one of the things I found out about and understood about the issue of maternal health and mothers in general, and maternal health, and whether our babies are healthy, it's largely determined by how these moms and these families are living, right? And 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 when we look at the issue of Black women in particular, um, the issues are 3 to 4 times worse. Black women die at a rate of 3 to 4 times as a result of pregnancy and childbirth. And guess what? It's not only the 7 to 9, as you mentioned, you're right, 700 to 900 women who actually die because of pregnancy and childbirth. There are about 50,000 women every year who come close to death, right? Who are what we call near misses. It's but for a last minute emergency intervention, that woman may have already passed. And so, and guess what? in this country, we're considered the most dangerous developed nation in the world, in the highly developed world in which to give birth. This is absurd. In the United States of America, we spend as much money as we do on healthcare, and we get the worst results. And the worst results happen for women that look like me. So here's what I would just say about it is that I find this to be unacceptable. I find the kinds of inequity that we see in this country affecting women in general, but especially women of color, Black women in particular, is just outrageous, and it's almost inhumane, and it actually ruins and affects the status of the United States of America as a premier country in my mind when we treat our people this way. And the last thing I'll just say about this is that, I'm not, these inequities really shouldn't be shocking to anybody. There's not one point in time in the history of this country, in the 400 years that Black people have been in this country, when Black people, people that look like me, or the descendants of the formerly enslaved, have ever received access to high quality, affordable health care in this country. It has never happened. There's never been a moment in time. We can go back and at any moment in time. And so when we look at the fact that we've been denied the kind of access to high quality care over 400 years, it's really not shocking that we should end up in the condition that we're in today. But that doesn't make it that it doesn't make sense for us to continue in this way, especially if I can do something about it or we can do something about it together. And that's kind of why I came to the March of Dimes, to raise awareness, to testify on the Hill, to speak to power, to let people know that, I see my job as being about empowering communities and changing the dynamic and changing the investment that we make in communities so that every mom and every baby can be healthy. That is what I see as my purpose in life and my role at the March of Dimes.
That's really great. Absolutely remarkable. Miss Stacey, do you know, are you familiar with Shamari Stone of
Yes.
NBC4?
Yeah,
Okay,
we
because
have
he's
Michigan. We have
also
Michigan roots.
Michigan. Yeah. I know you all are. Both of you are my people, so I didn't know whether the two of you knew each other. That's Michigan must be a powerful place.
We know each other. I don't say we know each other well, but we certainly have crossed paths and have this Michigan affinity and a connection. Yeah.
I consider it's funny because I consider Shamari a mentor, another strong black man who's always willing to drop messages of advice and encouragement, and I appreciate that. But mentorship as a total is something that's important to me. I devote my life to giving back to the kids. So like you, that's kind of, I found journalism because of what my passions are, the way that you are where you are. In that vein, the nation lost a very special man recently, of course, that being Vernon Jordan, a pillar of our community, and I know someone that was very important to you. How did your relationship with him, not only that, but with other mentors, how has that guided you and helped you to make it to where you are today?
Yeah, that's a big question. Hopefully I can get through this without crying. um, he so he was always, you know, another product of Atlanta, a very good friend of my family's. When I came to Georgetown, I got to be even closer to him because he was here. And, we had a ritual of every year he took me to lunch on my birthday, and he was just always there for me. And he was there for a lot of people. I wouldn't say I was necessarily unique in that way. He had an incredible way of, to your point around mentoring, he had an incredible way of like really narrowing in and listening and engaging with someone based on their needs. And he was always available to help, especially younger people and especially progressing in their careers. You know, Not only that, for me, mentoring is also, it's sometimes it comes through the time you spend with somebody. But when I think about my time with Vernon or just my interaction, my relationship with him, and a lot of other mentors I've had, sometimes people mentoring me and they have no idea they're mentoring me. In other words, I'm studying them. Like, you know how you do this? Like you study people, you watch how they handle situations, you watch how they handle conflict. And you take from that experience or that interaction the things that you can apply in your own life. If you're smart and observant, you watch what's around you. Let me tell you a quick story. I had a young woman. There's a great organization called Urban Alliance that works a lot in the DC public schools. It's been around a while. a guy who used to work for me actually helped to start Urban Alliance. When I was at the Fannie Mae Foundation, I had a young woman who came to be my intern who was at Anacostia High School. She was a senior. I was pregnant with my first child at the time. She got pregnant her senior year. I kind of told her, look, there's some things about mentoring that you shouldn't be taking from me. Like, you should not be getting pregnant when you're a senior in high school just because I'm pregnant. Like, don't do that. Do some other things. But anyway, she got pregnant. The child's my godchild. Anyway, I ended up hiring her full time. This girl was a foster kid. She was a foster kid. She ended up going to Trinity, ended up having to leave Trinity and get her a degree online. She ended up getting her MBA online. She is now, doing very well for herself. And I've been in her life for, what is this, almost 20 years, right? And, you know, um, for me, Chad, I agree with you. There have been a lot of people who've poured a lot into me, and I have an obligation to pour a lot into other people. I would only strive to even imagine doing it as well as someone like Vernon Jordan did. But that is an obligation and responsibility I think all of us have, especially when we have so many gifts and things that we've been blessed with. We owe it to other people to give it to others who need a hand up as well.
To that point, you have been someone who has been absolutely paramount in the charge to get DC student athletes back onto the playing field, back into the arena, and you have been from the start. You were there with us in our initial town halls, and you've been a constant voice for that. Of course, you do have two daughters that are in DC schools, but I know that the community means a ton to you as well beyond your own children. Why is this specifically something that's been important to you, and why has it been important for those kids in inner city DC especially to get back with their teams and back to the playing field?
Oh my gosh. So, first of all, I didn't always necessarily have this passion or put this investment of time into high school sports and sport and student athletes the way I've gotten so immersed in it.
Well, we're happy that you're doing it now. I can tell
I
you that
know,
much. We
I know. But I always I wish that I had been more of a student athlete myself. It wasn't something that when I was in high school my parents really pushed with me. And maybe because I wasn't a great athlete, I don't know. but
Me either. That
but
makes
it
two of us.
That's right. But I've always seen sports as being something really critical for girls, and always encouraged my two daughters to be involved in sports, and they did. But here's the thing: when I started just going to my daughter's games and taking pictures of them. I had all these pictures, and I was like, what am I going to do with this, And then all of a sudden, then I'm at their game, so I'm getting other girls. I'm taking pictures of other girls, other teams. And then I started and then I have other friends who have daughters who play. And I start realizing, there is such an amazing power for all athletes. I mean, I appreciate boys and girls. But I just have this passion for making sure that girls get lifted up in these ways because in so much of life, women and girls do not get lifted up in the ways that we really need. So I just started down this path of saying, well, if I'm going to a volleyball game, I might as well go to, or a basketball game, I might as well go to Baloo and see what's going on over there. And I just started going and just going to different, just going any game. Then it became any game. It was like Archer Carroll was playing. Oh yeah, I'll go over there, so I and I honestly I have to give credit to my husband and my daughters who were saying, why don't you start an account? Why don't you start posting about these girls and telling stories about these girls? And I just started doing it. And now with COVID, let me just say this, so here we were on this path. All of a sudden I felt like the world just stopped when coronavirus hit, just like boom. And what I could start to feel were some of these dreams of some of these girls and boys and athletes just fritting away, and just the anxiety and the lost connection and the feeling of lost time and opportunity, and it just hurts my heart. And not only that, I think sports, so we know sports just does so much, right? It's going to give kids a mental outlet, a physical outlet for sure. But look, some of our kids, this may be the pathway to college for them. This may be the only pathway to college for them. and we are taking away that opportunity for too many of them. But this is what I'm most concerned about in DC, because I say that about Pathway to College, and what I know is that kids that are in public school programs or kids that are in private school programs and they play AAU or they play travel, club, whatever, volleyball, club lacrosse, whatever, they're going to still have those opportunities.
The ability to pay to play. If you
You got
can
to pay
pay
to
to play,
play.
it's
But if
always
you
there.
can't pay to play, then what options do you have? And that is the inequity in all of this. And that's the unfairness in all of this for me. That where it is not an equal playing field. There are a lot of white kids that are going to do fine through this, right? Because they're going to still be able to play their sports. And, Chad, you and I run into each other at St. James. Hey, it's a bunch of kids out there playing. If you can get out to Virginia, you can play, okay? But how are you going to get to Virginia? Who's going to organize that? So this is what I'm saying. Like, we're not playing games with this. We have to make sure we're investing in our kids. They got to be back at school, period, point blank. Like, that is the priority. Education is number one. But these kids need more than that. I'll say this last thing. I'm going to tell you this. When I was at the Fannie Mae Foundation, one of the last things I did at Ballou High School, I invested $5 million in a new field at Ballou High School. This is before the new construction of the school. That field, you all know this, it had groundhogs or something. There were animals that were digging holes. The field was a danger pit. There were football players who were getting their ankles like twisted and all kinds of stuff. We did a whole new Olympic quality field for Ballou High School, and this is why. There was a kid at Ballou who was a C student, not a strong student, but who was a football player, and he eventually got shot and he died. But his coach said at the time that the one reason that he stayed in school and just kept showing up in school was because he could play football. And my thought then was that if for no other reason than having a strong sports program can we keep kids in school, then we need to invest in sports the way we also invest. It needs to be a holistic approach. And I'm going to tell you that was one of the most meaningful things I ever did when I was at the Fannie Mae Foundation. I'm glad to see the school looks even better now than it ever did. But we're still in deal with the same issues today, and now coronavirus has just made it even more challenging. So that's why I'm a big advocate. We got to get kids back at school. We got to get them back at sports. This is what makes kids. This sometimes is giving kids the only hope they have to continue on and push forward with their lives. Right? Is if they have that hope of doing what they love.
You know what? And I just want to say really fast. I think you talked about the mentoring aspect and the kind of being a guide to others, even if you don't know it, and what you're doing, it seems like the same thing. And whether these kids know it or not, maybe you taking pictures and shooting video is an avenue for them to get to where they eventually want to get to. So for that, we have to thank you. Kind of along those lines, do you feel that I know you have two kids of your own, but shooting videos and taking pictures of all these kids in your spare time, do you feel like everybody's mom at some point? Do you
Yeah,
feel
I
like
do.
the WCAC's mom or the IAC's mom all at once?
Miss Stacey, I'm going to tell you because amongst us DMV sports guys, we call you Claire Huxtable when you're not around. You are our Claire Huxtable. I
Oh,
just
that
want you
means
to
so
know.
much to me,
Uh,
actually.
Look, from one queen to another queen, right? You are our Claire Huxtable. Yes.
Oh my God, that is so great. Well, I think that's why the sports mom DMV thing came because I do. Yeah, I mean, you know, people ask me all the time, how you have kids and a job and you have all these things. How do you have time to go to other people's games? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know where I find the time to do this. Um, but yeah, I do feel, I don't even know how to say this really. I do feel, it's just part of who I am. Like, if I can give to, I do a lot of things like that. This story about Baloo and this field, I don't think I've ever told that story. Like, I have done things and I don't even recognize sometimes, you know, what it may have meant to somebody, right? And I enjoy, and it may be a little selfish too. I love sports. I love seeing these kids play. honestly, if I were just doing it for someone else, maybe, I mean, I do it a little bit, but I do it a lot because I love it too. You know what I mean? Like, I really love it. But I do really love when I can, meeting someone like a Tasia Jackson, who was the top DC scorer, and then finding out she's a mom too, and she's playing at this level in high school. I felt like I couldn't go to bed, and I was like, this girl, the world needs to know about her. And I mean, there's more than just her. Like, I don't know. Like I just see the need in our communities. There's some women and moms that are doing amazing just to keep life going for their families. If there can be more of us who decide to spend a little bit of our time, money, attention doing something for somebody else, think of how much better we would all be. We'd all be so much better off, right? If we just didn't stay isolated in our own little worlds, caring about our own little families, our own little, like, my kids are gonna be fine. I love my kids. I would do anything for my kids, but there's some other kids that, I have a big enough heart and enough time to do for someone else too. So,
To that point, you are what the media nowadays would like to call a double minority. You are a black woman. We're coming off of Black History Month directly into Women's Month here. You're raising again those two young ladies at your home. What do you hope that Madeline and Savannah take from you, their mom, and then even on a larger scope, what message do you have for black and brown girls everywhere who hope and dream of having success at the level that you have?
well, I first of all, I was telling a young lady, speaking of mentoring, I was talking to a student at Michigan Business School today, and two of them today, actually. One of them, the conversation I was having with her was, I had the great fortune of growing up in Atlanta, as I mentioned, with those kinds of amazing, towering figures that there was never one minute in my life as a black person that I ever believed that I was less than or less capable. Um, I had great pride in being black and felt that it's a source of my strength. And if I can have that kind of strength being a black person, but I went to schools in white neighborhoods, like from third grade on, and I was not accepted. I was one of only two black girls in my class. I never was invited to a single party in my high school. I wasn't a part of, like, I was basically, you know, uh, an outcast, right, in high school. But I always got to go home to my neighborhood. And my parents, my family reinforced that no matter what happened in that world, that I could still succeed and be the best I can be. And there's one thing, I think if there's one thing I could just say to young people about that is that there is never, there should never be a time in this country and in our communities, despite what we have to go through, that we emerge into adulthood feeling like we can't achieve whatever we want to achieve. And it is tough. The world doesn't always send us those messages, but especially for a black woman, what I would want my black girls to know is that even if they don't follow my path, they don't have to follow my path because God has given them their own path. But they could follow their own path and be all of who they can be. And there should never be a moment, a second that enters their mind when there's something that says I can't do it. That doesn't mean there are not going to be times of feeling frustration, or you're not going to get slapped upside the head and get pushed back, or the opportunity that you thought was going to happen may not happen. At the end of the day, if we just stay focused on the strengths that we have and the value that we have in who we are, especially as women, as black women, the history we come from, the legacy of who we represent, the shoulders upon whom we stand, like, there's nothing that we can't do, period. Like, I really believe that. And that is something I want every girl to know. And that's when I see girls playing sports. To me, they're embodying that strength, that power, you know, to just be the best. And I love seeing that. And it's part of why I love lifting them up. And but I tell that to my girls, and I tell that to every single girl I ever meet, because that's the one thing I want them to always understand.
we'll get you out of here on this. 2020, of course, was a bit of an awakening. We spent all of that year throughout coronavirus, throughout COVID-19, speaking a ton about social justice and speaking a ton about even equity. In your opinion, as you got 2 minutes left, so you got to encapsulate,
Be quick.
as a people, how do we go from talking social justice, talking equity, and moving that into action and achieving such things?
Well, I think it starts with staying focused. Unfortunately, change doesn't always happen as fast as we want it to happen, but it also
Because
doesn't.
I tell you, a lot of people, a lot of these young people, once
Yeah,
the marches stop, once it's out of the news, then it's gone, right?
that's right. And I think what we have to just stay focused on is there is an objective that we should all have that reminds people that as Black people, we have a right to succeed, to excel, and to fulfill our dreams like everyone else. And there's no one that has a right to deny us of those opportunities and dreams. It does mean that we're going to have to work hard to make it real to people that equity and inequity still exists, and that we will have to push hard to try to make sure that we address those inequities when we see them and as we see them and as we experience them. But I just have to say, I mean, like, I've seen a lot of progress in the world in my lifetime. I am committed to making sure that we can see more progress as we move forward. I think we got to get more and more people on board with this, and on board with this effort. When you look at the November elections, you can see that when we do come together, change can really happen. But you can't let up. You can't just say, "Oh, good, good, we got that done. Now we can move on." No, you got to keep the pressure on, keep it moving. We learned that in the civil rights movement. We learned that, all every step of the way. So, we just got to get more and more people in the fight and keep pushing ahead. That's all we got to do.
Man, D, I feel more empowered just in spending this time with Miss Stacey Stewart. How about you?
I do too. I do too. I'm ready to go out and do
Okay.
something now.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you,
So
Stacey.
good to see you.
It's now time for our favorite / most hated segment on the show. That, of course, is Everybody Hates Josh.
All right, so already 2021, it's been the weirdest year we've ever had. It basically saw 2020 was like, yeah, hold my beer, let me take this, okay? We had Texas freeze over, so you know what? It's not going to get any more weirder, but weird doesn't always be bad. Sometimes it can be good. But spring football, because we've had it the past couple of years, but it's still a weird thing. But this year, we're getting college football, which should be good because these aren't brand new leagues. And you know who one of the best college teams who's going to be playing right here is? A team we're pretty familiar with. Ain't that right, Chad? Your James Madison Dukes, currently ranked number 2 in the nation, looking to get a national championship. Now, something else I'm expecting to happen that's going to be kind of weird. Club sports are going to go crazy this summer, especially in DC. Want to know why? Without high school basketball or football season, there are going to be so many prospects who are thirsty out there trying to get an offer, trying to get an opportunity to play college ball and change their lives. Because for a lot of kids, this is the only way they can afford higher education. And if you're thinking, what do you mean club sports with football? Trust me, we've already got the apparatus there, okay? With the way some of these youth football teams are, you're basically getting freshman spring football already. I mean, Chad, was it 4 years ago we saw Marshawn Lloyd during a youth football game and his team come out in DeMatha jerseys? It's going to happen. Final point, and I'm going to just keep it real quick. Baseball. Do not watch the Orioles. They are trash, okay? Last week, Fangraphs came out with their predictions for making the playoffs. Want to know who had the least odds? The Orioles with 0.0. And want to know why? They don't pay anybody. They have the lowest payroll in the MLB. 6 teams. No, 6 players are making more money than their entire payroll. Steven Strasburg is making more money. I'm not an Orioles fan, but I'm offended, okay? So you should be too. We shouldn't give the Orioles any money, and that's it. Everybody hates Josh. I'm out.
Excellent, or at least an interesting take by my dear friend Josh Ilori. Now you know, like I do, why everybody hates Josh. Let me get Darrell Bouknight back in here. I don't know why you continuously make me invite Josh Ilori onto this show, bro. I'd have stopped being friends with him a long time ago.
Look, I mean, hey, I mean, if you hate the idea, then they can hate Josh. So
That, that's a
let's
good
stick
point.
by that.
Everybody needs friends. We are Josh Ilori's only two friends in the world. But speaking of someone who needs no new friends, just like Drake, we are bringing on to the show now my main man, Reese Becker of VA Preps and Fifth Quarter Inc. Reese, thank you very much for joining us on First and Told.
Thank you. I actually do need new friends. I have none.
Look, I was being facetious myself. I don't have any friends beyond Darrell either, so we can all be friends.
Hey, if you're good at Warzone, I'm open,
There it is, bro. There it is. All right, so Reese, for anybody who may not know this, I'm from the 757 myself. I'm from Hampton, Bethel High School. You, of course, cover sports all over the region, but specifically in the DMV area as well. So I'm excited to have you on. Now, as we talk about this spring fall sports season that has kicked off a couple of weekends ago, there was a lot of time off between games, between practices. What have you seen in terms of the state of play? How's the competition thus far at these games?
Well, the good teams are good still. Experience, leadership helps. The teams that have a lot of returning guys from last year are doing great. Teams like Maury, Ocean Lakes, Lake Taylor, Oscar Smith, of course, doing great. The more senior leadership you have, the better you're going to be.
For those who don't know, I am not from the 757 like Chad and Reese. I am from the 202 in DC. But what I do know is that Oscar Smith made it to the Virginia 6A title game last year, but they lost to South County. I want to know from you, Reese, how do you expect Oscar Smith to bounce back, and what do you anticipate from them this coming season?
First of all, they lost to South County by a point. On a Ramon Copeland touchdown that was called back, which I had a perfect view of. I'm not going to say why I think of the touchdown, but it was a point. And all props to South County, great season. Oscar Smith looks like Oscar Smith. Ethan Vasco is probably the best quarterback in the state. Monty Jones, Cole Jones, Tayron Richardson, all the guys they have there, Shaquille Hilliard. They have everything they need. I mean, you can pencil them in every year to go to the state finals.
Look, Oscar Smith, again, me and Coach Scott go way back. Coach Chris Scott is my guy. When I first got into covering high school sports as a total, he opened the doors to me over there at Ocean Lakes, and it helped me to kick my career off. What are your thoughts on Coach Chris Scott? Have you met him? Because he's a phenomenal man.
Of course I met him. I know him very well. We're friends on Facebook. We follow each other on Twitter. We talk every now and then.
Wait, Reese. So are you saying that you and Coach Scott are closer than me and Coach Scott?
I mean, physically, yeah.
Okay, there we go. I'll take it.
Great coach, great leader, great team builder. He's taken, 3 programs now to success: Ocean Lakes, Catholic, Bishop Sullivan, and Oscar Smith.
Yeah, and beyond being all of those things, he's also a great man. So definitely shout out to Scott out there. Lake Taylor and Maury, of course, we're recording this now on March the 4th. You at home are hearing this after this game has been played. These are two schools that lost a ton of P5 players, outstanding student athletes who went on to the next level. In your anticipation of these schools, will they rebuild this coming year, or have they just reloaded?
Well, I saw Lake Taylor play last weekend. They won their game 53-6. They returned the same quarterback, who's also defensive back. 2 sophomore running backs, which are very good. Another defensive back. Their quarterback, defensive back, is also their kicker, and he's very accurate. Maury still has their quarterback. They have a new running back, and they have a lot of young wide receivers. Really only lost 2 or 3 pieces, and Lake Taylor only lost Malik Newton, really.
We know Oscar Smith they have their district on lock. But are there any other teams in that Beach district that we should be on the lookout for?
So in the Beach, yeah. Princess Anne, Salem, Ocean Lakes. Cox has a very favorable schedule. I wouldn't be surprised to see Salem go 5-6-0, or even Ocean Lakes. I mean, Ocean Lakes has, Naquan Brown.
Naquan Brown, he's a big time student athlete. Good to see him out there getting some reps in before he goes off to college as well. I want to give you an opportunity to rep Fifth Quarter Inc. Of course, that's another of the organizations that you work with. You are a man who works hard for student athletes all around. Norfolk State, a big time program. They recently had some news go down with their head coaching situation. Crystallize that situation for us.
Their longtime coach, Latrell Scott's out. He left, the release said, for another career opportunity. I don't know what the future of Norfolk State football might be. I think you're going to see their interim coach kept on for a year. And then, go back to Oscar Smith for a minute there. Chris Scott, could he make the jump?
Inside information!
It wouldn't shock me to see them hire a local guy, or to see them hire a guy who has some experience in the area.
And I tell you what, if Chris Scott ends up heading over to that school, then the world will know, Reese, that you broke the story right here on First and Told.
I have absolutely no information about that. I'm not saying Chris Scott's leaving. I don't think he's leaving. But I think Norfolk State would have to hire local, and they'd have to hire a guy who's getting his first college shot.
Reese, thank you for that, and thank you for stopping by First and Told.
Thank you.
First and Told, Darrell Bouknight, I am Chad Ricardo. I want to thank all of our special guests who have stopped through thus far. Reese Becker of VA Preps in Fifth Quarter, Josh Ilori and Everybody Hates Josh, and of course, the Imperial, Stacey Stewart, a.k.a. DMV Sports Mom, or is it Sports Mom DMV? Which one is it? It's DMV Sports Mom, I'm fairly certain, but equally, if not more important, she is also the CEO of March of Dimes. Darrell, it is time for you and I to go one-on-one. I want to talk to you about a little bit of a controversy that had the internet and the entire sports media nation on fire last week. That, of course, being the text from Jane Slater. If you don't know this, Jane Slater is a sideline reporter with NFL Network. You go ahead, D, because they're familiar with it. This was the first tweet that she sent out that people started getting upset about.
So last Monday she posted this tweet saying and following, I posted an opportunity for an unpaid internship and I'm amazed at the comments I get. It's not even for me, it's for someone else, and I would have jumped at it in college. I had 3 unpaid internships in school, double majored, and had a job. Shaking my head. So that was the first tweet she posted, and then she followed up with another tweet quoting that one and said, "One other layer for future journalists: your first few years will feel unpaid. I made $16,500 my first 2 years and worked harder than I've ever worked. There is a reason that not everyone makes it in this business. I don't have time for those of you who do not understand the grind." So that was
grind.
it.
That grind. It like I don't. Was it in capital letters? Because I know that I don't have time for the grind is what got people upset.
Mm-hmm. It is, and I think it's admittedly in our business, and we can speak to this because we're here, and I don't want to speak on your behalf, but from experience, I've always been told that my first couple years in journalism, you're not going to make anything. You're not going to make a lot of money at all. You have to work your way to the top. You're going to have poor hours sometimes. You're going to have low pay. You're going to do work that's worth triple the amount of the money that you're actually going to make. And sometimes to take these unpaid internships, nobody wants to work for free, right? Everybody wants to bring in some income and make money.
Wait a minute, D. So you're not saying that you want to work for free? Because it sounds like you're saying you want to work for free.
I don't want to work for free, but again, in our industry and in our business, I understand that sometimes you have to. I did it in college. I did it in high school. I had 3-4 internships in high school that were all unpaid. I did it in college again. We're working at a couple newspapers and radio stations, all unpaid, where I had to write 5-6 articles a day and didn't get any pay for it. But it got me to where I am now, and I understand that not everybody agrees with that, and it's not ideal to not make any money, but that's reality. It's unfortunate, but that's where we are now.
From my perspective, D, and like you said, both of us are in this industry. We've each paid our dues because that's kind of what it comes down to. No one, not you, not me, not Jan, Jane, Jack, or Jill, favor unpaid, low paid internships. What it is though is that we work what many would call a dream job, right? And in business is all about what is it? Supply and demand, right? Well, the jobs that we're after are in high demand, and you know what? There is a ton of supply. There's a ton of people who want these positions that we want. So, is it right that employers know that they can offer these unpaid internships and people will still line up out of the doors to go get them? Is that right? You know what? Right now, I'm not here to talk about whether that's right or not. What I do want to talk about is that for any young aspiring journalists out there, and I have a what's very near and dear to my heart are young black, brown, yellow aspiring journalists out here. And what's important for you to know is that right now, this is a part of the game that we're playing. Now, hopefully, years down the road, that won't be a part of the game. But right now, if you want to be in this industry, you have to be prepared to work a low paid or unpaid internship. Why do I say that? Because I don't want for you to get to the door, and then when you get there, when people get outraged about this story and everything else, so that then when you get there, when you get to the door, then you decide then that you don't want to do it, that you've worked this hard, and then you decide that you're unwilling to take that next step. Don't waste your time getting there if you're not prepared to do that, because this is, like so many other things in life, it's about an investment that you make in yourself. If you are that qualified, like someone like Darrell Bouknight right there, if you're as qualified as he is, once you get into that door and you work that internship for 3 months, for 6 months, for a year, you know what? You have an opportunity to get hired by that company. Darrell, who do you work with right now?
I'm at CBS News. Work at CBS this morning.
How did you get in the door at CBS?
It wasn't just interning at CBS. It was working at a newspaper one summer. It was building up, working those internships, like I said, in high school, a couple in college, and then it wasn't until I worked those couple unpaid or low-paying internships that I got my internship at CBS, and now I'm full-time there.
My first gig was in radio, and my first gig in media, in radio. I was so excited because I had this job. I was going to be on air from 6 until midnight at night. I was like, oh my gosh, I was just out of grad school. I was like, I've made it. I met with my program director. He said, okay, here's your full-time. Your salary is going to be $13,500. Wow. Darrell, I said $13,500. What does that even equate to in a week? $13,500. That was my first, not internship. That was my first job, bro. That was my first job. Now I had an option at that point. I could either accept that and see what I could do with it, or I could walk away and say that it wasn't for me. I took it. Not only did I take it, but I said, now if this is my goal, if this was my dream, what do I need to do to turn this into what it is that I want to do and live the lifestyle that I want to live? So I worked at the Boys and Girls Club. I worked at the Boys and Girls Club from early in the morning until late into the afternoon. I ate dinner at about 4:30, then went directly to the station and worked at the station from 6 until 12. 6-7 days a week I did this just to get by, to keep my dream alive. I've worked 6 to 7 days a week my entire life. I'm damn near 40 now, and I've done it then. And so there's people that are listening right now, D, and they're like, oh bro, well that stuff sucks right there. I don't want that. I don't want to work 2 jobs. I don't want to work 6 or 7 days a week. I don't want to. Well, you know what? Then don't, bro. Then don't. Then maybe this isn't for you. We do not want to work unpaid. We are not championing for businesses and organizations that can pay you, but there's this is an investment. Do they take advantage of us? Maybe they do. But you know what? If you have a dream and you have a goal, are you going to allow that to stop you? Or are you going to break through this glass ceiling to get into the door and then change things for those that are coming after you? Because D, in order to change things, you got to have a seat at the table in order to change things, and that's what often our people don't understand.
And just really fast, I think the beauty of what you said and the beauty of these situations are that you have choices. You can make the choice to to do what you have to do to attain your dreams and catch your goals. But you can also work if you have the opportunity to, because we understand personal circumstances, family circumstances,
It ain't
financial
for
reasons.
everybody, bro. It's
Right.
not for everybody. Shout out to our guy Jaron, who, you know what I'm saying, brought up some very real situations. It's not for everybody, though.
Right. But you have a choice in how, like you said, working at the Boys and Girls Club if you can to make ends meet. Working at grocery stores, working at at a restaurant or something. Not everybody can do it, but if you play your cards right, you can navigate it. And again, I'm not advocating for unpaid internships or jobs. You're not
It's not what
advocating
we're
for
here
that.
for, bro. Yeah.
But we are saying that there are ways you can hopefully get around it.
Again, to be clear, for those of you, because there's a couple of people
There's
out there
gonna be a
listening
few.
right now, they're tweeting at us right now. Oh my gosh, these this, they're calling us every name in the book, especially those that we don't that we don't like to hear. We are not advocating on behalf of the companies, but what the issue is sometimes we don't hear the message because we don't like the messenger. Now, the messenger in this case, this young lady Slater, was probably because she does come from a very affluent background, and she did have people. So what people don't want to hear is her telling people that it's okay to work for free, to grind, as she so said it. But I can guarantee you this, D, my family sure didn't have any money, and they haven't really helped me since, even though they would have liked to, they really haven't helped me since I was 17. I've been on my own since I was 17. Do you come from money?
Money? No, not at all. I mean, help. Yeah, I mean, paying in college. My dad and my mom would pay for my tuition, but I would also chip in with the money I was making from one of those internships when I could. But
Because
coming from money,
people
no,
will misconstrue that, D. When you say that your parents helped, that's because they had an abundance of money to help you. They just had it laying around. Is
oh
that
no,
how they helped, or did they
it was
sacrifice?
it was just like picking it up a little bit and being able to tear off a piece and say, here's some money, for this or for that. But you also have to help us if you want to get to where you want to get to. And I knew college was a dream of mine. It was a goal, and I had to contribute to that. It wasn't a free payment. It wasn't anything easy at all.
So again, as we close out both this segment and this show, our message is that we are two black males who do not come from influence. We certainly do not come from any amount of huge monetary gain. We were just two black men who had dreams of working in the media, but we were willing to work and do whatever it took to make sure that our dreams were able to turn into goals. And if you want to turn your dreams into goals, you have to have an attitude about yourself that I'm going to do whatever it is that I got to do in order to make not only my life better, but to get somewhere and then be able to open the door for somebody else who's coming after.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And again, I think if you want it, you can go get it. And there are options and there are ways to work around it if you're willing to put in the work. That's the simple message.
And if it ain't for you, bro, it ain't for you. And that's fine.
okay. Yep.
I'm Chad Ricardo. That is Darrell Bouknight. D. Where can they catch this show? Because we're in a couple of different platforms now.
Oh, we're moving on up, right? Like the Jeffersons. We're on.
Like the Jeffersons.
We're like the Jeffersons. We're on Apple Podcasts. You can find us at First and Told. It's not AND. It's the ampersand, that sign. It's first.
The who?
The ampersand. That's what it's called. Yeah.
A damn
It's
Gonzaga education.
the
Bro,
Gonzaga education. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, First and Told Podcast. You can also catch all of our stuff on Twitter at Real Chad Ricardo, at DJ Bouknight, Bouknight. For those who don't know how to spell it, we're going to post clips there. But yeah, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And soon enough, we're going to be on Amazon Music and Google Podcasts. Stay tuned for that.
And if you're listening right now, you can watch this on YouTube as well. I'm Chad Ricardo. That's Darrell Bouknight. First, ampersand told. We'll see you next week.